Hi everybody, welcome to In Practice. François-Julien Dufault here. I'm your host, and today I have the pleasure of telling you about a subject that I've learned a lot about. I basically built a sales-based organization to a multi-million-dollar business and sold just recently at age 29 after 7 years of building. So this was basically how I figured out how to turn your why, what you really want in life, into a vision and a formula to eventually know exactly what you need to do on a weekly and on a daily basis in sales to get what you want. So again, today is the first of a series on how to basically manage your time in sales. This is annual. We're going to work back to then every basically quarterly, weekly, monthly, daily, all those things. But this is the first logical step. Also, I encourage you to download the sheet that I've created for you so that you can actually create your formula and determine your input so that you can schedule your input in sales to get to your yearly goal. So this is one of those videos where if you do take the time to write it down, you're going to save a lot of time. So again, let's get into it, and you're watching In Practice. So first step of the formula here is to ask yourself why you're in sales. Some people are in sales, because they want to just make a living, and that's fine. Some people want to build their own schedule. Some people just basically want to save a lot. They have now a variable income that allows them to save so that they can build investments. Maybe you want to move up in the company. Maybe you want to own your own business. Whatever your goal is, your why is going to dictate the type of the type of goals that you're going to set for yourself. And that's really important because you don't want to be living somebody else's life. You don't want to be doing something that's, just like going on all engines if it's not what you want. But if you want to get, make basically history in sales, you've got to also have clear goals. So that's step number 2. So once you know why you're in it, then you can ask yourself, what's my goal? And I don't just mean set goals. I mean setting goals in terms of how much you think you need to make this year, how many new clients you think you want to get. So let's say that you sell softwares and that the average transaction gets you X amount. Well, you just have to figure out, like, say it's my first year in sales. I want to make, say, 200K. I'm ambitious for my first year. I want to make 200K. I know that on average, the softwares sell in a range of 20K of commission to 30K of commissions. It's a mid-long cycle. So I'm gonna do the math and basically do, say, 200 grand divided by 20K. This is gonna be my average, and then I know how many deals I need to get this year. So you get the principle. You just have to figure out 2 things. First, what average deal size you're committing to, and this is in the sheet that's attached. Are you doing volume or are you doing high ticket? The good thing with volume is that you can basically predict a lot more of what you're doing. And high ticket, if you have a good plan for it, then good, you can go for it. But my approach was basically having a larger pool of clients and basically having more of a cash flow, if you will. So this is setting clear goals. How many clients? Let me get actually the pen here. How many clients?
Je suis désolée, mais je ne vous entends pas bien. Pourriez-vous répéter?
Let me get a pen here. So how many clients you need, and then how much is your average deal making you in commission? So those are the 2 things. So how much you want to make, and then how many clients you need with your average deal. Once you have set clear goals, then you can move on to write your one client formula. I'll give you an example. If somebody is doing outbound, so if somebody's making calls to get new clients, the formula can look like X number of calls is going to get you X number of pickups, like people who actually pick up the phone. Depends on your list quality. So your conversion rate for step 1 in your pipeline, in your actual process, is going to be this variable. Then so you basically have calls to pickups. Then you have pickups to actually booking an appointment. Then to a first introduction, then to proposal, then to close. So the key here is that you track how many calls you need for one pickup, how many pickups you need for one booking, how many bookings you need for one intro, how many intros you need for one proposal, for one closed deals, and then you multiply all those numbers to figure out what's your input for just one client. Let's say it's 66 calls for one client. We're then going to get to what are the key variables that you can optimize so that you can take control of this equation. But the first thing is really to figure that out. So whatever your process is, whether it's getting new clients through basically outbound, whether it's direct messages on a social platform, you just have to identify something that's in your control, not just waiting for the phone to ring or anything like that, so that you can actually write your one client formula. And again, in the sheet attached, you have pretty much all the details you need, but it's pretty straightforward. You just need to do the math and everything lines up. Once you know how many calls, direct messages, events you've got to attend, whatever, to get one client currently, you'll then play with the formula, but you'll need to schedule your input. So you have your goal. Say I want to get 20 clients of 10,000 commission per client this year to make 200 grand. Great. I need to make 200 calls to close one deal with basically one of these clients. So 200 times 10, I need to make 2,000 calls. You probably need to make more calls. But the point is this, you schedule your input and then you're gonna have a clear idea of how to manage your time during that year. Then once you have that, you're breaking down in quarters, months, and you basically plan your weeks and plan your days accordingly. The key here, and you can watch my other video about hustle culture versus deep work, how to be productive in 2025, where I explain the value, and especially true in it's especially true in sales, of condensing your efforts and making sure that during those blocks, like let's say you're doing calls, or let's say you're doing direct messages, or whatever, you're creating content for inbound, whatever, during those 3.5 hours to maybe 4 or 5 hours a day, you do nothing else. Like the list is prepared before, you have your food next to you, you have all this, no distractions. Once you have scheduled your input, you just go for it and you monitor. And so then step 4, okay, so you've got your input schedule, monitor your 3 key variables. What are you gonna do here? Well, there's gonna be things in your formula that you can tweak so that you can get closer to the goal. It's okay if it changes through the year. You just have to keep your eyes on your target and on your why. And ideally, if you can make that visual, like, vision boards is a great way. If you have something that's driven by something else than just making money, like a lifestyle you aspire to, a quality of life you aspire to, an impact you aspire to, those are usually higher goals that will drive you even more because they're more meaningful. But you have those, you schedule your input, you look at 3 key variables you choose to monitor and track. For me, for example, what it was, and basically this made me millions up to now. I think it made me maybe 6, 7, 8 millions. I've been doing business for 7 years, so it's a pretty good payout if you bring that back per year. 3 key variables were quality of the list, of the people you're calling. If you're calling people, whatever your method is, you're probably gonna get in touch with people. Then there's going to be also the basically number of activities, like for example daily, every day, and then I would create weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual summaries. I would track my one thing. This comes from Gary Keller's book, which basically is a real estate broker turned real estate mogul, which built Keller Williams, and he says, identify the one thing that if you do daily makes everything else completely unnecessary, and then just do that day after day after day. It doesn't have to be something that you do for 14 hours a day. You can do this for like 3-4 hours a day. But if you do that every day, you put an X on the calendar, this will kill. In my case, it was calls, and then much more than that. I had to deliver the service, make sure the clients were happy, eventually build a sales team, all those things. But it's wonderful. You would be surprised how much impact that can have. So calls, list, maybe another variable is your pitch, like how you present. And with that, you can adjust all the ratios in the formula. So the key is to really break down the formula step by step. Last thing, this was so transformative for me, especially the day that that my daughter was born, where I basically cut by 1/3 the amount of work I was doing, and yet increased, basically doubled my results. I brought in about 50 million of new clients money under management. I was a financial advisor. Still hold a license, by the way. So 80-20, how I did that was really recommitting to my average deal size and making sure that I was only doing high probability selling. So going deep on 80-20 means only talking to qualified clients then only making sure you keep talking to people who show commitment in the process, because you'll find that out of all the deals you close, there's probably 20% of deals that go really well, and those make up for 80% of your business through the year. And the other 20, it's draining energy. You have to call the person back 1,000 times. You feel like you need to put pressure. You don't feel good about yourself when you do that. So just go for a win-win. Just speak to people who want to speak to you. Find blue oceans. Drill deep on this 80-20 thing, because if you can have a list that's twice more qualified, you basically reach the same amount of close with half the time. Imagine, like if you're twice more efficient, you reduce by half the time needed to get to your goal. If your average client is twice as big as what it's been so far, with the same number of deals, process, admin work, all that, you can double the results. So make sure to follow these steps. Ask yourself why, set clear goals, write your one client formula, then schedule your input. This is really, really important. And we can get into the other videos about the quarterly and then the monthly and so on. Keep a close eye on your input. Make sure that you basically review how much call you're doing, how much calls, how much activity. Every day, just write down the number for the day. Make shorter sessions, but make sure that you're all out during those sessions. This is key. Take a few variables from your formula that you really obsess about, and then keep in mind to go deep on that 80-20 so you can actually have a life and have a good time doing this, because this is about how to manage your time in sales on a yearly basis. It's a yearly plan, so we're looking at how to make the most of your time. So again, I hope today's episode was useful. If you like this, you can use the sheet if you haven't done so already. That's below. You can download it in the description. Also, you can watch the next logical video to watch in this series, which is basically the quarterly sales plan on how to manage your time. And this works, folks. This is basically how I closed hundreds of deals based on win-win with recurring relationships with clients that stayed afterward, gave referrals, and so on. The key is to adjust all this with the type of life you want to have, why you're doing this. This is so key. And sales is predictable, it's simple. So again, I hope this was useful. You can come back to In Practice for videos about how to improve your life and how to improve your business. We're still beginning the channel, but if you're running a sales team or if you want to have basically coaching for yourself and you're an elite in sales, we can get in touch. My email is going to be in the description. Again, it's fj.duffaud, D-U-F-F-A-U-D, @gmail.com, so you can get in touch. And thanks for watching today's video. Be well, and I'll see you in the next one.